land of the Tiwa people. We recognize that this land they were here long before we were. And I would like this acknowledgement not to just be an acknowledgement, but also a pledge for us to do better as a nation. Go ahead and have a seat. Good to go, Jake. Thank you so much. All right, thank you, everyone. Welcome. My name is Marisol Enriquez. I am the chair for the Democratic Party of Bernalillo County. I am joined here today by our first vice chair, Jake Stern-Powell, who's handling the recording back there. Our treasurer, Paulton Payne, he's seated back there. And then part of our events team, Jacob Trujillo, he will be our timer today. I wish to first thank the Western States Carpenters Union for letting us borrow this beautiful hall. And I would like to thank our candidates, District Attorney Sam Bregman, our incumbent, and his opponent, Damon Martinez, former U.S. Attorney. All right. Okay, with the consent of both candidates, their teams, I'm not sure if your teams communicated this to you or not, but the teams consented that the forum may end at around 12:15 instead of 12 p.m. due to some format updates. If anyone does need to leave promptly at 12, please exit quietly. The event is being recorded and will be available on our website within the next couple of days. All right, I don't think I see any members of the press present. Excellent. Mr. Bregman, Mr. Martinez, thank you both for being here. I'll go through some ground rules. Yes, we can read you a round of applause for our candidate. It's quite a task, right, to step up for office. So much appreciated for both of you. Okay, so some ground rules. First and foremost, I ask that you turn your phones off if you have them. So we don't offer the phone a friend option, no internet searches, and definitely not any chat GPT. You'll each have 3 minutes for an opening statement. I will be asking some questions that we have sourced from Democrats across the county, grouped by category. You will each have 1 to 2 minutes to respond, depending on the question, and if either of you makes a direct claim about the other, a 1-minute rebuttal will be allowed. The first respondent of each question will alternate, and I'll notify you when it is your turn to go first. Please be on the lookout for Jacob in the back. He will notify you at the 1-minute mark, the 30-second mark, the 15-second mark, and he will notify you of the stop. Do you both consent to these ground rules? Thank you. Let's, just in case you didn't hear it, they affirm, they consent. Okay, thank you so much for being here. They didn't put it in writing, but it is being recorded. All right. Oh my gosh. All right, so let's see. Okay, the first category, actually, we're not going into the first category yet. You're taking your opening statements. So, Mr. Bregman, you will go first if you would. You've got 3 minutes, please. Take this or not take this. I'm joined by a bunch of attorneys. Right, no kidding. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. How about now? I didn't turn it on. It is a pleasure to be with you all. Good morning to you all. It's great to be with fellow Democrats. It's great to be in the Carpenters. What a beautiful facility. And I think just collectively, we should thank the Carpenters. I've been supposed to be this for what they do every single day. I'm very grateful. So listen, I was honored. A little background, as many of you know, I was the former state chair of the party, I've been state councilor years ago, long before I had all this gray hair. All along, I've been a Democrat. I'm very proud to be a Democrat. In fact, just a quick side story. I tell this every now and then because I remember my father and mother telling me it. Hubert Humphrey introduced my mom and dad. So even before I was even a twinkle in someone's eye, obviously I was a Democrat. It's a pleasure to be here. I was honored by the governor a year ago, January, when she appointed me to be district attorney. I've practiced law for 3 decades in Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, in the state of New Mexico. I've tried too many cases to count. I've enjoyed every bit of it, and I've raised a family here, currently in Albuquerque. And I love this place. This is an amazing, amazing city, county, and state. But the only way, I believe, that we're gonna truly get to the potential that Albuquerque can be is if we make sure we're doing everything we can, and it does eventually become a reality, that people are safer and people feel safe in this community. Because it is extremely hard to have the kind of quality of life we want for people in this community, if in fact, they don't feel safe. It seems like a simple thing to say, it's so much harder to do when we have historic conflict in Albuquerque over the last several years. I will tell you, I look forward to answering your questions. I've been giving the time already, most of the time already, but I will tell you, crime is like a big ship in the ocean, and it's gonna take some time to turn it. But I can tell you, after 14, 15 months in office, we are beginning to turn. So much more work needs to be done. But I think never before has law enforcement worked more collaboratively, laser focused on making all of us safe. So much work to do, and I'm looking forward to doing more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bregman. Mr. Martinez, your turn.
Well, good morning. I would first like to thank the Carpenters, and I'd like to thank the Democratic Party for hosting this. My name is Damon Martinez. I'm running for district attorney, and I'm asking for your support. My dad used to say that the Martinezes were selling chili beans here in the area when the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth Rock. I am a 10th generation New Mexican. I was born, raised, and educated here. I met my wife, Holly, at the university. I've dedicated my career to public service, to you, to New Mexico. During my career, I've had points where there was literally a call of duty for me. The first one was after 9/11, when I joined the military. I'm currently a colonel in the New Mexico National Guard. The second one was when President Obama appointed me to be your U.S. attorney. And the third one is now. Our community is in crisis. I am grateful that we are here in this hall that labor built, because it's going to allow me to be able to distinguish my democratic values and my record from my opponent. For example, I have a record of defending labor. My opponent, on the other hand, when he was a city councilor, he tried to privatize the sanitation department. Tried to privatize it. As your U.S. attorney, I made a very difficult, hard decision to hold the APD accountable to a higher standard. At the same time, my opponent was representing the officer that killed I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name, the Foothill shooting. Also, as my record reflects, that I have worked to help people coming out of jail and prison to reintegrate into the community. At the same time, my opponent, when he was city councilor, he was trying to get passed, as a city councilor, legislation to charge people in jail rent. I have 20 years of prosecutorial experience. My opponent has less than 5 years, and it's showing. It's showing through the DWI matter, how it's being mishandled, and sweetheart plea deals to murderers and drug dealers.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Yeah. Yes, if you, since there was a direct claim according to the ground rules, there's 1 minute, response. If you'd like to respond, Mr. Bregman.
Thank you. Our criminal justice system. Our criminal justice system is so very important when it comes to the integrity of it. And in any time. My hand. Okay, let's try that. So can I get my comment again?
Yeah, you're good.
One minute, thank you. Listen, the criminal justice system is only as good as we make sure the integrity of it is in place. And the idea that I was just criticized because I was a lawyer representing someone charged with a criminal offense, I think is ridiculous. It really is. What we want is everybody in the process, prosecution, the defense, everybody to have adequate representation. And I can't tell you how much that I believe in the integrity of our justice system. And the idea that we are going to now attack people, when we're running for office with prosecutors, attack people for doing their job as lawyers, and somehow that's improper, that's exactly what we want in a robust criminal justice system. Thank you.
Right, thank you both. Can you hear that, Matt? You can hear that, okay, thank you. All right, let's go ahead, oh, it sounds better. Oh, thank you, yes, okay. All right, let's go, thank you for the opening statements. Let's go ahead and go into the first category. This question will be a 1 minute response time. Okay, earlier this year, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham said at a press conference, "I don't think it's safe out there." And this week she called for a special legislative session focused on public safety. Do you agree with her that our neighborhoods aren't safe? Why or why not? Mr. Martinez, you are first. You have 1 minute.
Just for clarification, the person's name I couldn't remember was, and this was to show the distinction. When I was moving for police reform, because James Boyd had been shot in the foothills, and that was seen worldwide horror, it was my opponent who was representing the officer that shot. We aren't safe. Right now, we have an epidemic in crime, in addiction, and our people don't feel safe. And right now, my opponent is handling it quite different from what I would do. We have to handle the fentanyl issue, the crisis that's devastating our community, in a different way. We have to, as far as treatment, education, reentry, and prosecution, handle it in a comprehensive way. So yes, to answer your question, I agree with the governor. We need a special session to look at the entire criminal justice system because it needs reform.
Question.
Basically, do I agree with the governor on whether or not?
Why or not? Go ahead.
With,
You want to switch to this one?
yeah, can I just stand right there?
Sure.
Let's do that. So whether or not I believe that we're safe, or the governor said she feels safe, I can tell you too many people don't feel safe. And it's extremely frustrating. It's scary for a lot of people based on what part of town you're living in, what type of neighborhood, what's going on in your neighborhood. It's very scary. And the entire community is suffering from this. Now, whether or not the special session, I certainly hope that they're able to accomplish some things. I know when we go into special sessions, the time frame on it is unknown at this point. But I can give you an example that I want to very much focus on, the 60th session, and that is our entire children's court. What we're seeing with crime with juveniles right now is so scary, and the increase of gun violence amongst juveniles. I don't know if the children's code can be handled in such a comprehensive way in a special session, which may last only a couple days. But I know it is a very, very pressing issue that we must take up. And I hope to be able to get a chance to talk about fentanyl all those in a subsequent question.
Thank you, Mr. Bregman. All right, next question. Mr. Bregman, you will go first on this one. Can you provide us one high priority example of legislation you will advocate for to help keep our neighborhoods safe? And which other community stakeholders should be a part of the process?
So there's a couple of priorities I think that I would like the legislature to consider. And number one, I just mentioned the children's code. And I really believe we need to take a look at it because there are no consequences for young people. Right now, today, if a 15-year-old steals a car, they're not going to spend one night in the deal. There is no room, first of all, but quite frankly, all they get is probation. They do not have any real consequences. And there needs to be built in some consequences when it comes to juveniles. Fentanyl. Fentanyl is a huge problem. It is a poison. It is destroying neighborhoods. It is destroying lives. It is a root of so many of the crime issues. But when it comes to fentanyl, I have 475 active trafficking cases for the people that are pushing this poison out on the street. 475 right now, just since I've taken office, that are active. But you attack the supply that way, but we have to do something for the demand. Just because if someone is an addict and they would never be in the criminal justice system, we are taking every advantage to divert them out of the criminal justice system and get them the help they need. We've diverted close to 3,000 people since I've been in office in 15 months to try and get them help, but they get put on a wait list to get drug treatment. And when you get put on a wait list, what do you do if you're an addict? You go back out there and look for your next fix. And I gotta tell you, we need a comprehensive focus on providing the resources and finding the people and getting these treatment facilities, both mental health and drug addiction facilities, in place in our community. And that is one thing that I want to continue to encourage the legislature to do. Thank you.
All right, we've got another microphone here that we might be able to utilize, which may not have the whole thing, the whole thing. Try that. Thank you. And hear the theme on this one too. You have a 2-minute response time here, and if you'd like me to repeat the question, I will.
Sure.
Will you provide us one high priority example of legislation you will advocate for to help keep our neighborhoods safe? And which other community stakeholders should be a part of the process?
So the one thing that we agree on is that fentanyl is devastating our community. And right now, what we have is we don't have the capacity to deal from the side of it that needs behavioral health, mental health, or dealing with the addiction. One of the things that's happened in the past in New Mexico is Governor Martinez devastated our infrastructure for this. And so one of the first things that I would want to do is go up to Santa Fe and talk about, hey, we have all this surplus up there. Let's put this into behavioral health. Let's put this into mental health. And let's start working together. One of the things that happens with our criminal justice system is you have a bunch of lawyers having great ideas, but you're not bringing in the medical profession the way you should to align it to work together. One of the crucial things that's happening right now is the diversion program at the DA's office. And in my former life, before I started running for this office, through the Mental Crime Initiative, why does time go so fast? Okay. When I was working for the Mental Crime Initiative, we were putting money towards the diversion program in the DA's office because we were trying to work together. Right now, the capacity of that diversion program is the capacity of the special courts and district court are enough, or with the mental court. And there's problems with the diversion programs through the mental court that I can go into later if you want. But the point is our criminal justice system needs a complete overhaul. And this special session, or the 60-day session coming up, is a perfect opportunity for us to work together, look at this together. So to answer in my last few seconds, working together with Representative Herndon in the audience, we worked on the safe storage bill together. And I have experience working up in Santa Fe. One of the last things that I would go up to is the assault weapons ban. I have an op-ed on this, and you know my position if you go to my website. We need to do this comprehensively.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Okay, we're gonna switch to this microphone for all. We'll pass this along. All right, thank you both for that response. We're gonna go right into the next category, which is something that our entire community is concerned with, which you have both spoken of, and that is crime. For this next question, Mr. Martinez, you will go first. You have a 1 minute response time. What role will your district attorney's office play in reducing gun violence in our community?
This one? All right, so the question is, what will the district attorney's office do concerning gun crimes? We're going to be taking the lead on it. Right now, one of the things that's happening is there's a lot of sweetheart deals that are occurring throughout the community with charges. And so we're going to be looking at it in two different ways. First, let me talk to you about from the prevention side, and this is the long-term answer. I have a minute. Okay, so the long-term answer, the long-term answer is we're going to be going out and we're going to be teaching de-escalation in our schools. Because one of the things that's not happening right now is our youth don't know how to react to hostile situations or to friction. They're pulling a gun too often. That shouldn't be happening. As far as people who cross the line and shoot and actually endanger someone or hurt someone, we're going to be holding them accountable. So we have a long-term solution, and also we're going to be creating deterrence.
Office play in reducing gun violence in our community.
Thank you very much. So, we recognize the problem in district attorney's office. It's a severe problem. Two things right off the bat. Number one, we formed a gun team for specifically targeting 18 to 25-year-olds that are using guns and fentanyl. They've been open, that team has been up and running for 3 months. It's 3 prosecutors and support staff. They have already opened up 48 cases in 3 months, just for 18 to 25 juveniles. When it comes to juveniles and crimes, we are focused, and unfortunately, we have 50 beds at the D home right now. 25 of those beds are occupied by kids charged with murder. Another 11 are charged with gun crimes. Another 3 for guns in schools. As you all know, I've been going into the schools myself, talking to them, and I will continue to do that because it's really important as a community that we talk to our young people about this gun violence. There's no way I can answer in 1 minute the comprehensive stuff that we're doing in our office about gun violence.
Thank you, Mr. Bregman. All right, next question. This will be a 2-minute response time. This past week, Attorney General Raul Torres stated reducing crime and recidivism in our community goes beyond using punishment as a deterrent. This question is a 2-part question. 1, what causes crime? And 2, which of your policies or strategies would best mitigate the causes of crime in Bernalillo County? Mr. Martinez is first on this one. Oh, no, I have that wrong. Mr. Bregman here.
So again, the question is 2 parts. One was what causes crime? Well, obviously, so much of crime can be rooted, as we all know, in socioeconomic issues such as poverty and education. Those are things that we have to make long-term investments in as a community and state. And that is as important as it gets, because when people do better, they look to crime at least a little bit less. But one of the real issues that we can touch right now that's on the streets is this fentanyl. This fentanyl is causing everything from shoplifting to drug dealers shooting each other, trying to rip each other off with their guns or their drugs. So getting a handle, continuing to get a handle on fentanyl is something that's extremely important to address crime. We cannot prosecute our way out of that issue. We can prosecute traffickers, and we are prosecuting traffickers. But we have to address the demand side of fentanyl. And that means providing the kind of resources as a community And that doesn't mean when I divert someone and say, okay, they would have no criminal record, they would never be in it if they were not addicted to drugs. When we have that person end up, we get referred 14,000 total cases every year in our office. But when that person shows up and we tell them, go get treatment, you go get treatment, we'll divert you, keep you out of the criminal justice system. And they come back to us and say, okay, I've signed up for treatment. And tell us, but I can't see anybody for 4 months because they don't have any ability to see us. That the DA's office by itself can't address that issue, but we as a community can. And that is going to make the difference because there are too many lives being destroyed by fentanyl. It is a root cause.
Thank you, Mr. Bregman. Mr. Martinez, two-part question. What causes crime? Which of your policies or strategies would best mitigate the causes of crime in Bernalillo?
No, once I start talking, you start timing. So, depends on what type of crime it is. If it's cartel crime, it's greed, it's money, and they don't care who they kill. If it's crime coming from addiction, from mental health, behavioral health, it's a different issue. So let me go back to the cartels. My opponent led a case, 7,000 fentanyl pills, because of his plea agreement, the defendant got probation. The co-defendant, or actually there wasn't a co-defendant, the husband of the defendant was directing this from prison. Convicted sex offender, hasn't even been charged in the case. Now let's talk about mitigation, what policies I would have. The very first one is, again, as far as dealing, let me talk about reentry. Reentry is absolutely crucial because those people in prison right now, we know they're getting out, and we need to help them. We need to help them with, as far as stabilizing. And so part of the issue is housing, work, and also addiction. Do these people have that support coming from the community? And that's why when people are coming out of prison or jail, that needs to be coordinated. There's wonderful things that are in place already. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a Miami-Dade model that we've been trying to follow for a while, some parts of our community, and that's the warm handout. Someone coming out of prison, we need to make sure that they know how to get to that business in the next morning, that place that's going to help them get a job. When they're coming out of prison at night, if they've pled that day, for example, a fentanyl case that is pled down to criminal trespass, we have to make sure that they're not put on the street in withdrawal without shoes or without a jacket, that there's someone there that can help them transition to a place to stay or a place to help them do the job. Thank you.
Thank you. I probably just mentioned a specific case. So I think it's unfortunate it chooses to misinform people. I need to be very clear about that specific case. We pled that person to 2 counts of trafficking, 2 counts of child abuse. We wrote a memo to the judge asking for that person to do 8 years in prison. Our prosecutor went into the courtroom at the time of sentencing and argued for 8 years in prison. The judge decided to give probation. I don't talk badly about judges, but I won't do it. They have a tough job too. But for him to say that we pled someone to probation for trafficking is complete BS. Thank you.
All right, it moves to the next category, which is the role of the district attorney. For this, you have a 2-minute response time. Knowing the significant impact you can have on the lives of youth, how do you view your role in ensuring better outcomes for individual youth and the system at large? Mr. Martinez, you are first.
Thank you. So let me just go back to that case of Sandoval, case I spoke of, is the DA's plea agreement allowed probation. Concerning the DA's role in our community. The DA's role is a leader. And something that is absolutely important is when the DA makes a representation, the community believes that there's integrity in that statement. My opponent told the community in a press conference that he was not going to run for DA. Concerning the system at large, the district attorney's office has to lead the effort concerning what's needed to be done in the criminal justice system, and part of that is justice. When homicides occur, you have to create deterrence. You don't give a sweetheart plea deal. Concerning the fentanyl issue, you don't just try to move the cases. You create deterrence for the cartels. When the cartels find out that someone received probation for 7,000 fentanyl pills, what's that telling them? That we're open for business. And as far as we've heard a couple of questions about going up to Santa Fe, the district attorney helps lead the effort up there, not just in prosecution, but in looking for ways to create that other systems like the VIP program, violence intervention program, receive money for the system to make sure that the system is working, such as the specialty courts, the veterans court, the drug court. We have to work together to the extent we can. And we have the ability to do that, but we have to be creating the right atmosphere to do it.
You put on the question of better outcomes for you. Certainly, and I think many of you all know my commitment, because you've seen it. I've already visited 12 schools, 12 school assemblies, classes, everywhere from 2 students in a class to 2,000 in assembly, talking about guns, for example. I think it's very important as a DA, as a leader of the community and the chief law enforcement, that I should be out there talking about the dangers of this. The fact that it's just plain and simple. There's a zero tolerance in our office for guns on campuses. We have made it very clear from the get-go that there is nothing scarier for a parent, grandparent than the idea of a gun on school campus. We take that extremely seriously. And so we are having zero tolerance, which we will hold these young people accountable when there is a gun on campus. At the same time, we have to have, listen, back in the 70s when they wrote the Children's Code, there was a fist fight behind the school. That's the way kids were going, getting in trouble perhaps. Now, you find kids with stolen keys driving around with bags of fentanyl, semi-automatic firearms in their car, and they're shooting at a house because the kid in the house stole their middle school girlfriend or something along those lines, and then a little kid in that same house gets hit with a bullet. These are very different times. The glorification of guns with young people combined with social media is a disaster right now. It is an absolute disaster because what do? They take a picture with a gun and they get a few likes. And all of a sudden they think they're cool and they keep doing it. So our job in the district attorney's office, like all law enforcement, is to find out where they're getting stuff. These aren't kids that are going into a store and buying guns or a gun store. They're trading them, they're going on social media, they're going out and meet someone in an hour. Unfortunately, I've run out of time.
Thank you, Mr. You've already answered that. Okay, next question. According to the Human Rights Campaign, the nation saw a record number of fatalities against transgender or gender expansive people in 2022. At least 56% of those victims were misgendered or dead named by the authorities or the press. How do you ensure that laws prohibiting discrimination against the LGBTQIA+ community are enforced and their dignity upheld even in death? Mr. Bregman, you go first.
So we will hold anybody and everybody accountable for the law. Years ago, 3 decades ago, when I was in the city council, I introduced and passed the first hate crimes ordinance in the state of New Mexico. It's the city council. I have absolutely no tolerance. I will tell you right now, there are investigations going on in our law enforcement about actual hate crimes that have taken place. We will investigate and prosecute any of them to the full extent.
Thank you, Mr. Bregman. Mr. Martinez.
So right now, the current atmosphere, it feels like our civil rights are really being threatened, especially with the political atmosphere and if Donald Trump becomes president. One of the things from my record is I don't need to just stand in front of you and promise you. What I can tell you is what I did as U.S. Attorney and how important civil rights are to me. Let me give you some examples. I already told you about seeking reform in the police department. The other thing is, during my time period, we prosecuted for the first time in a very long time, a sheriff from northern New Mexico for violating someone's civil rights, basically sticking a gun in the person's face and saying, you know who you're messing with. And then one of the last examples I want to give you is, there was a woman who was wearing a hijab, the scarf, on a plane on Southwest Airlines. And there was a man who was drunk on the plane and he kept saying, take that scarf off. This is America. Well, he made the mistake of pulling the hijab off her head over New Mexico territory. We prosecuted him and made him a criminal. The rule of law is absolutely crucial to the fabric of our community, to our society, and we need to build that deterrence. People have to have respect for the Constitution, and that's one of the things the DA is so important as far as being in that capacity, because the DA is there for justice, to make sure that everyone abides by the rule of law. No one is below it or no one is above it. It applies to everybody.
The next question, what metrics should Bernalillo County residents use to measure the success of the district attorney's office? This is a 1-minute response. Mr. Martinez, you are first. What metrics should Bernalillo County residents use to measure the success of the DA's office?
There's a couple of things that our community needs to pay attention to. The first one is just talking to our community, talking to your neighbors, talking to your friends. Do people feel safe? You know, we've been talking about fentanyl. My sense is a bunch of folks out here in the community have been touched by or have had to suffer a tragedy, either family member or friend. So the first one is just word of mouth. The other metrics that is absolutely crucial is paying attention to what is coming out of the DA's office. What's happening with the plea agreements? Is someone charged with first-degree murder, but then pled down to a third degree, a battery, or a gun count? A fentanyl case. Is a person that's charged with 800 fentanyl pills pled to criminal trespass? Pay attention to what's going on. And then the other thing, here's a metric, and this is the common sense one, is I believe in driving down the highway or driving down our streets, we all see what's happening in our community right now.
Let me give you some metrics right off the bat. 2023, we tried more felony cases out of our office than anybody can ever remember. We have more convictions of violent crime, rape, than anybody can ever recall. Going back and we search records. Those are a couple. I've hired 54 attorneys since I got in. Why is that? Because this is the most important metric as a prosecutor that I've proven. And that is that we present good cases to jurors and let jurors determine guilt or not. And the way you do that is to drop the caseloads down. When I walked in, there was 50 cases per homicide prosecutor. Now there's 25 because we have additional lawyers. And the bottom line is the most important thing we do is do justice. Let the jury, let the criminal justice system work. When we have less cases, we can present better cases to juries. And that's what we're doing. And I'm very proud of the office of work. Thank you.
All right, the next category is criminal justice reform. Per the Prison Policy Initiative, if we treated U.S. states as individual countries, New Mexico would have the world's 19th highest incarceration rate. What effects do you think this has on our communities, and how would your office approach the issue of mass incarceration? Mr. Bregman, 2 minutes.
Let me say right off the bat that I'm adamant about the fact that if somebody is violent in our community, we need to hold them absolutely accountable under the law. We need to do everything we can to prosecute them, give them a fair trial, do justice, and then we need to sentence them to prison if they've taken someone's life, rapes. Our office has been doing that for 15 months, I know, in a big way. We have a cold case unit that is still going back. We just convicted of an individual committing 3 rapes, 2 of them in late 1980s and 1 in 1990. We will be relentless when I'm DA, and the office is relentless on making sure that we hold people accountable. At the same time, I don't believe just because someone is an addict and addicted to fentanyl that they deserve to be in a jail cell. If that's it, we need to continue to divert, and that's why I've diverted close to 3,000 people into diversion to get them treatment, to get them help, because they don't belong in the criminal justice system. If it were not for their addiction, they wouldn't even see us. And that's why we've got to get a handle on this fentanyl, because, you know, the police, look what fentanyl is doing to the neighborhoods. You don't have to go very far in this community to see people who are smoking fentanyl on the side of the corner, destroying neighborhoods. Central and Southeast is just amazing right now. It's scary. It's scary for people that live there. So we really have to get a handle overall when it comes to this fentanyl crisis, which is driving so much of the crime. But after that level, if someone is violent and hurting people, we will absolutely hold them accountable and put them in prison.
Thank you, Mr. Bregman.
And so I've never heard that number before, the 19th most incarceration. But what that tells me is that there's going to be a lot of people coming back out on the street. And so we have to look at those individuals. I'm going to give credit to a business, Fathers Building Futures. They're on Mountain and 4th, and what they do is they'll start working with someone coming out of prison 2 months or jail 2 months beforehand. And they will give them a job, and it's woodworking. They're making the paddles for Dion's, and they're also making wooden coffins. But the point is, you need to stabilize these people. And this is part of the job of, so the question is criminal justice reform. We have to be looking at those warm handoffs, someone who's leaving a jail, what are they going to do when they come out? One of the other things that's going on is there's people in jail who have mental health, behavioral health, or addiction issues. So one of the things that's important to me is there is a time period that I believe is absolutely crucial, where if you're addicted, you realize that you may have hit the bottom and you need help and you want help. We have to identify those folks who want help and get them that treatment. Either through the court examination, you can do it through the criminal process, or you can do it through the civil process. But the point is, if there's folks who are in the criminal justice system who need that help for addiction, get on the examination and try to establish the need. And then if we don't have the beds to deal with those folks, go up to Santa Fe. And again, as I mentioned previous, let's establish the foundation and put that infrastructure in place to help these individuals. So again, this is talking about criminal justice reform. I'm just talking about that. I'm not talking about the prosecution side.
All right, speaking again of criminal justice reform. Black people make up about 2% of the state's population, but 7% of the state's prison population. Hispanic people make up around 50% of the state's population, but 62% of the state's prison population. White non-Hispanic people, on the other hand, make up 36% of the state population and only around 27% of the state prison population. Do you believe the criminal justice system suffers from systemic racism? Mr. Bregman went first last time, right? This is Mr. Martinez.
Which side of that? So the question is, does the system suffer from systemic racism? The answer is yes. So in my 20 years of prosecutorial experience, one of the things that we were dealing with when President Trump fired me in 2017 as U.S. Attorney was we were examining from the federal side, and what we were seeing was disproportionate sentences coming from the tribal lands. And so we were dealing with that issue. Let me say at the outset here is when I become your next district attorney, we're immediately going to implement implicit bias training at the DA's office. Because no one should get a different plea offer based upon the color of their skin or what part of the city they come from. If the facts are the same, everyone has to be treated the same. And that's absolutely crucial. One of the things, and this is where my 20 years of prosecutorial experience comes in, is when you're dealing from a prosecutor's office, it's not just you. This is the team effort, is you're dealing with law enforcement agencies. This district attorney is going to have to work with the APD, the sheriff's office, the state police, possibly federal agencies, FBI, marshals, DEA. And the experience I bring to this is I understand the various cultures at the various agencies. And I will know what to look for and make sure that justice is done.
The answer is yes. I can tell you that one of the things that is constantly on my mind is to make sure that you're doing justice in a fair and even way. I know that in the past, for example, there was an ATF roundup. Didn't result in a fair, just. Walked through the courtroom and saw a disproportionate African American people, and it's so far different from the population in Mexico. It's crazy. So every day I want to make sure, as I have, that we are administering justice in a fair and balanced way. And that's going to continue to be a struggle. And it's all the way about going back to the things that make up what are the root causes of crime. But it's also the way, oftentimes, by the way, being a cop's the hardest job in America. You have to de-escalate, you have to lay your life on the line, you have to do so many different things, and then you get second guessed. But at the same time, we have to encourage, and I'm on the governor's training council for law enforcement, and we are encouraging unbiased policing to where we're treating everybody different. They're going through training. We're going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to make sure our law enforcement agencies have the best possible training when it comes to making sure that we are not discriminating against any type of based on someone's color or anything else. And so it is a big concern. It will continue to be a big concern, and it's something that I will continue to focus on making sure that we distribute justice fairly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bregman. Yes, we have a rebuttal, 1 minute.
Right, DA Bregman just mentioned the ATF operation, and there were concerns about it. And those concerns I take very seriously. And everybody in the criminal justice system should take it seriously. I am very proud to have worked for the first Black Attorney General of the United States, Eric Holder. He was my direct supervisor as the U.S. Attorney, and it was in this context that we were trying to keep the community safe and also guard people's constitutional rights. In the matter that DA Bregman is talking about, there were 4 cases brought before 3 district court judges, different district court judges. And in all of those cases, there was not any type of profiling found to have occurred.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Candidates stated that yes, we believe the justice system suffers from systemic racism. This is a follow-up. If you believe since you both believe this is a problem, what systemic changes are required to fix it? 1 minute response. Mr. Martinez goes first.
So, how much time do I have? Okay, so I already talked about one of the things that I'm going to do is implement implicit bias training at the district attorney's office. The other thing that is absolutely important is I will go back to the police agencies, whether it's the sheriff's office, APD, or the state police. When I told you that I was the U.S. attorney that brought reform to APD, one of the things that we put in place is we put reporting statistics in them. And it'd be important for me to look at those reporting statistics. Another thing that's important is, and I did this at the U.S. Attorney's Office, is in prosecuting cases, I would make sure that internal mechanisms are in place to make sure that, one, the evidence is there. Also, that the evidence meets the elements of each of the crimes that's being presented. It's not being overcharged. And other types of demographics to make sure that there isn't anything of concern or red flags popping up.
As I mentioned before, we review in our office 14,000 cases every year. We have a process in which we go through every single felony case that comes in our office. We call it the bridge. About 10 staff people, including prosecutors, support staff, others, look at every single case referred to us from law enforcement. Some of that law, APD, BCSO, state police, Isleta Pueblo, Sandia Pueblo, all those agencies, together with sometimes federal agencies, refer us cases. We take a detailed look at each and every one of them. And when there is a problem, if we see a problem, it's based on this is not reasonable suspicions, stop, this is not problem cause, we do justice at that point. We throw the case out. You will not take a case that we do not have good faith that we can prove beyond reasonable doubt. The jury. Evidence changes, and sometimes you end up launching a case that, whatever reason, got worse, not better. But this is an important part of it from day one that we get the case all the way until the end.
Thank you, Mr. Bregman. Next question. According to Searchlight, New Mexico, of the 50 largest cities in the United States, the Albuquerque Police Department had the highest rate of killing people. In 2022, APD shot and killed 10 people, the highest yearly number on record. Why do you think our rate is higher than any other cities, and what steps would you take to lower it, if any? Mr. Bregman.
I think it's really a hard question because I mean, if there was a way in which we could just stop excessive force. But I want to tell you something. My entire life, I have come to people. I have represented police officers. I have sued police officers. I have brought excessive force under the constitutional rights within federal court. I don't know of anybody in this town who's done more of those cases than I did without them. tremendous amount. I believe always to be an advocate for my client, just as I'm an advocate for the entire county right now. So I do understand the trauma, family, the tragedy when a police officer uses excessive force. I also will tell you that I will stand up here and tell you most vast majority of cops bust their tails every day in this community. And so, yes, we have a high number of shootings, and it's unacceptable in the sense that people are dying, but at the same time, it's a very dangerous job right now. And it also articulates and illustrates how violent our streets are right now in general. It's not just police officers, it's the whole community's too violent. The police officers do an amazing job. I just said how it is such a hard job. I go on ride-alongs with them. They have to make split-second decisions. I know you've heard all that, but the task of a police officer right now, and that's why I'm thrilled to be on this training council, developers for law enforcement, because once a month we need to develop continuing training, and training has to change based on what's going on in the community. We continue to train, and I don't have the answer on why our numbers are higher, other than I do know it's a very fortunate, violent place right now in some instances. So that's our job, is to continue to fight crime. I think as we get a better handle on crime, we're going to see a better handle.
Thank you, Mr. Bregman. Mr. Martinez.
Well, I do have the answer. The Searchlight article was mentioned, and I'm actually mentioned in it because it's looking at the 10-year anniversary of the consent decree of the police department. So I think there's parts of the answer that need to be considered. The very first one is 10 years ago, we didn't have the fentanyl. And so right now, fentanyl is again ravaging our streets and our community. And so that is what's absolutely crucial right now. And that's the big difference why we're having a lot of the officer-involved shootings, what's happening. I also think a part of this too is since the consent decree put in place good policy, good training, and then good implementation for the officers. And what has happened in the Albuquerque Police Department is there's a new culture there concerning officer-involved, training with as far as use of force. So you have a new force right now, and what needs to be developing too is the experience with the supervisors. And so my concern with the Albuquerque Police Department is we need to have experienced supervisors in place to help with the training and the oversight of the younger officers, because to an extent we're having a younger force now. And another issue too that's going on, and this is a nationwide trend, is we're down on our numbers of officers. And so you have a lot of officers, or we need more officers out there basically helping to keep the community safe. This is an issue. This is an absolute issue. But again, this goes back to the fentanyl issue. We need to deal with the fentanyl issue comprehensively. And if we do that, this is one of the places where we will see a change. And when I'm your district attorney, we will see a change.
All right, we are at the point for closing statements. Mr. Bregman, you went first for opening, so we'll start with Mr. Martinez here. Mr. Martinez, you can prepare your closing statement here, state it if you've already got it prepared. We've got about 3 minutes.
Well, I want to again thank you for coming out today and listening and being a part of this, because ultimately this is democracy. And again, where we're at in our country, democracy is absolutely crucial that we exercise our rights. Let me just, in closing, talk about a couple things. The district attorney talked about hiring 54 people. What he didn't tell you was how many people have left because of retirement or something else. 54 isn't the net gain. It's probably about half of them. Also, one of the things that he talked about was the bridge, that each case is looked at comprehensively. It's my understanding of the way that the DA's office operates is when a complaint is made, These people around that table will look at that complaint the next morning. I'm talking about something that's more comprehensive than that. After the complaint comes an indictment, and before that case is indicted, I'm gonna put in a system that has checks and balances to make sure that the case that's indicted, for example, if someone is indicted on first-degree murder, we have the evidence to go forward and deal with it as first-degree murder in specific cases. So, I appreciate you listening to me this afternoon or this morning. What's crucial here is our democratic values and our experience. Concerning our values, I'm asking you to consider, is a person who wanted to privatize the sanitation department someone who you want to be holding an office? Is a person that has less than 5 years of prosecutorial experience in a place to get us out of this situation? Me, on the other hand, look at my record, and what you will see as U.S. attorney was someone who's not afraid to make hard decisions concerning the APD matter. I did something at UNM. And going forward, we need systemic change in our criminal justice system here, starting with the DA's office. To give you some other examples of where my heart is and why this is important, is as the district attorney, if you want to look me up, there was a hope initiative where we dealt with Oxy at that time. We worked with a medical school. We worked with community providers. That's how I'm going to go forward. We're dealing with this fentanyl issue. This is all tied together in certain ways, and you need somebody in there that understands it comprehensively. Yes, the DA is there to prosecute, but that's not just the hammer you have. You need to deal with treatment, education, re-entry. Those are all things that are important. And when you're dealing with somebody, you have to understand what system is in place to also deal with potential homelessness, potential jobs. I'm not saying the DA's office can do that directly, but you have to be working with partners to get that accomplished. Thank you for your time. I'm Damon Martinez. I'm asking for your support in this race. Thank you.
Thank you all so very, very much for your questions and enjoyed this morning. I will tell you that when I came in to the office, caseloads were stacked. We had less than 80 attorneys in the office. We will have, after the fall recruits of 9 more attorneys that have agreed to come work for office, we will have 113 actual attorneys working in the DA's office. That number blows away any comparable year. The reason why that's so important is the reason I fight for this office so much up in the legislature when it comes to funding. It's because it goes directly to the bottom line when it comes to doing justice. You have 330 some people who bust their tails every day at that office to try and make this as safe a community as we can. They work hard. When it comes to doing justice, when they can spend the kind of time because they have a little bit of breathing room, presenting a case to our jury system, our jurors, and letting them decide guilty or not guilty. That's the way the system is supposed to work. And that's the fundamental job of being a prosecutor. And I will tell you, I have been in a courtroom for 30 years. I've tried as many cases. I don't think there are very many people in this community that can come close to the number of cases I've tried, both on the civil side for victims, crime, for victims of civil rights violations, as well as a prosecutor when I just started my career. I used to say it was the best job I ever had, and now I found out that this is the best job I ever had, because I get to lead those 300 and some people who really do work so hard to make this community safe. It's been the biggest honor of my life these last 15 years. So I want to keep doing it. You know, I did say, I didn't know what I was walking into. I did say I don't plan on running, but once we got things started, and once we were seeing the numbers that were happening, where we were trying more cases than ever before, convicting more folks of violent crime at trial than ever before, we started putting things in place, diverting more people. I saw a difference being made, and I want to finish the job. So that's why I'm asking for your vote of support finally about the unions. I have the privilege and honor to have 8 union endorsements already. So it's somewhat insulting for someone to claim that those unions would support someone who is a union buster. That's crazy stuff. Fact of the matter is, I'm honored to have the support of men and women of labor. It means a lot to me. It has been since I was a city councilor, since I was the chair of the state Democratic Party, and it does today as well. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Great, that brings our forum to a close today. I want to extend a big thank you again to the Western States Carpenters Union for hosting us today. I wish to thank Mr. Martinez and Mr. Bregman for your participation, being here. Audience, thank you for being here. This is democracy in action. If you are aligned with either or both of these candidates and wish to help their campaigns, please do. They could use the help. You can speak to their campaign teams to see how best to get involved. Doug, right here is Mr. Martinez's campaign team, and John is here for Mr. Bregman.
John, raise your hand.
Raise your hand. All right. Everyone is welcome to mingle out on the floor for another 30 minutes or so. We do need to be out of this space by 1 p.m. Thank you all for being here. Have a wonderful afternoon.